All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 12th, 2025 meeting of the Winter Hill Urban Renewal Plan Civic Advisory Committee meeting. My name is Ben Demers. I'm a senior planner with the Economic Development Division of the city. I'm just going to take a second to share my screen. Okay. Can everyone see this okay? Great. So yeah, welcome to the meeting. Just going to make a quick note. This meeting is being hosted this evening using Zoom webinar. And one note about the tech here. Um, oh, you know what? This actually is a little bit different because we are on a CAC. Okay. No notes about the tech, just to say this is an open meeting. And so, any questions that are asked this evening will be included with the recording, and then the recording will be posted on the city's website and YouTube page following the meeting. I usually try to get it out within the next couple of days, along with a meeting summary, which we will review at the next meeting. So I'm going to walk us through our agenda. Let me also just see if there are any members of the public in attendance this evening. We do. Okay, great. So for this evening, we're going to do the roll call vote that we generally start meetings with, as well as I'll ask members to approve the previous meeting summary for our March 26th meeting. We'll then have a development update. This is kind of our main substantive item this evening, as well as neighborhood updates from CAC members, and leave time for a public comment period before we adjourn. I do want to note it's a fairly light agenda from my end. So don't have a ton of updates, but we had spoken in the past about not going more than 3 months without meeting. So I wanted to make sure that we're respecting that, still kind of checking in, making sure that if people do have questions, we're answering them, and also sharing any changes in the timeline for any of the projects relevant for the Winter Hill Urban Renewal Plan, 299 Broadway, and that redevelopment obviously being the largest one. So why don't I shift us into our roll call? Okay, I'm going to start with Breck. And if I could just ask members to unmute and say that they're here. I believe I saw Breck on, but might be in transit, so I can also.
Yep. Breck's here. Breck Bailey.
Cool. Thank you, Breck. All right. Councilor Klingon?
Present. You got that right? I'm here.
Yes. Yeah. And then Councilor Wilson?
Present.
Ani Ajimian let me know that she's not able to make it anymore. Denise?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Arthur?
Here.
Thank you. Renee?
Here.
Nick?
Yep, present.
All right. And then Adrian Roman, I have not heard back from, so I do not believe is on the call this evening. And then Raymond.
Present.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, I will try to touch base with Adrian before our next meeting. I just want to make one other note, which is that Colby Keys has moved out of Somerville. So generally, one of the qualifications for being on the CAC is that you live in Somerville. The goal is living in the neighborhood, but living in Somerville at the very least. So he's not able to serve on the committee anymore. But I mentioned this to him over email, but just to reiterate, thankful for his time and what he gave to the project. The last piece is just to check in if people had a chance to review the March 26th meeting summary. Just want to confirm that it looked accurate to everyone for what we discussed. Did anyone have any comments? Even if those comments looks good.
Yeah, looks good. Yeah.
Thank you, Arthur. Okay.
Seconding, it looks good.
Thank you, Councilor Bingham. Okay, so why don't we shift into our more substantive item for this evening. So as I mentioned, the main item we have tonight is just a regular update from Mark Development. So Mark Development being one of the development partners developing the 299 Broadway project. So we're joined this evening by Scott Lombardi, Vice President of Development with Mark Development, to give us an update. Before I pass things over to Scott, I'll just note from our end, we continue to work very closely with their team as well as with Beacon Communities and Samuels and Associates over the past couple of months, finalizing details for the project as they approach their building permit application. So just to name a couple of the things we're currently working on, finalizing some civic space easement language that should come to the city council later this month. We've gotten logistics in place for spending of a MassWorks grant to support civic space development and coordinating kind of on reviewing items leading up to the building permit submission. So a lot going on. I'll pass things over to Scott to give a sense of where they are with project planning and the anticipated timing for that building permit application. When we get to Q&A, I'm also happy to answer any questions from the city side. So Scott, take things away.
All right. Thanks, Ben. Good to see everyone. So I think Ben's statement that we've been working closely together here is probably understated to a certain extent. We've been the entire partnership, Mark Development, Beacon Communities, Samuels Associates, has been working really closely with city staff and our consultants to try to get to a point where we're ready to break ground. We're targeting September. We have just some updates since the last time I was with you guys. I think we left off with the Samuels team coming into the partnership. Since then, we went back to the ZBA in May. We got an insubstantial change approved. I think I'd categorize the changes as mostly administrative in nature. It was design development to get to a construction set that was ready to submit for a building permit and really documenting those changes through the ZBA. So I think it was well received. It went through quickly, and we're ready to build now. We submitted building permits for Building A, Building B, and the site. So there's 3 separate building permit application packages. Building A would be Beacon Communities. Building B is Mark Development and Samuels and Associates, and the site is shared amongst the 3 members of the partnership. So they went in a week and a half ago. We expect that it'll probably be 2 months before they're issued, working with ISD, engineering, PSA, mobility, all the city departments to make sure that the conditions of our permit are all satisfied. So might not seem like a lot, but it is all consuming for a lot of people on this team right now, and we're excited to get it going. I think that I mentioned that we're targeting a September groundbreaking. I think that tracks well with when we submitted our building permit, having a little buffer to know that it'll be ready by then, and it's also in line with when we expect to close with our financial partners on this. So both equity and debt that are going to come into the deal on the LP side, which is a big milestone that you typically get to right after you get your building permit and before you break ground. So everything is tracking in the right direction still. I don't think anything has changed the positive momentum we've had. We still have a lot of work to do to get there, but we're optimistic, and I think it's realistic optimism that we're going to get there, and we're going to get there really soon here. I'm hoping that by the next time we meet, we're planning a groundbreaking party. So happy to answer any questions you have, Ben. If I missed anything that is on your list, I'm happy to get into any level of detail that you guys would like.
No, I think that covers definitely the highlights from the last 3 months. I see we have a hand up from Councilor Klingon.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple of questions. So from what I remember, Beacon would be breaking ground first. Is that correct? Or
yeah, so we are trying to we're setting things up right now for what we're calling a simultaneous closing. I mean, our closing and Beacon's closing won't probably happen on the same day, but within the same 2-week window, call it. The way that the site is sequenced from like a construction logistics perspective, it makes sense to start at their building, which is higher up on the hill, and then work towards ours, where there's more site prep work that needs to be done. So we're working west to east across the site. So yeah, they'll start first for logistical reasons. Earlier on, we thought it might be because of their timeline with the tax credit investors and what we knew would happen on the market rate side, but we've been able to queue it up, so it's all going to hopefully happen at the same time.
that's great. And what about demolition of the Star Market building?
It'll be one of the first orders of business.
Okay. All right. So, but what can people expect? I know it's a little early, and obviously we don't want to put out chickens, count our, whatever, eggs before they hatch. It sounds pretty good, like everything is looking like a September groundbreaking, like you say, for both teams. Whatever the whole, the whole deal locked up. So just walk us through, because that's gonna come fast, and like people have questions in the meantime. So again, we know nothing's certain until it's certain, but what does that sequencing look like in terms of, so the building would come down first?
Well, yeah, I guess if you want to get into a little bit more detail then. So the first thing we would need to do would be to abate the buildings, right? There's some amount of asbestos in both of them. It's not anything, it's less than a month worth of work. I'd rely on my contractor to tell me exactly what it's gonna be, but the first couple of weeks would be just mobilizing, setting, erosion control, all the stuff that you need to do on a site of this size to be prepared to start construction. And we get the abatement contractor out there. They'd make sure the buildings are safe and ready to be demoed. My best guess is we're probably 6 weeks into it before you're actually seeing the buildings demolished. So we do have some runway where there's some light activity at the site before it's people stopping and looking in traffic to see the interesting stuff that's going on type thing.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously, I'm sure abutters are concerned with regards to like the rodent mitigation and all of the, like you say, the 6 weeks lead up, because I think it's like a month before you start actual like demo or whatnot, you need to be baiting and all that stuff.
Mhm.
All right, I mean, we don't have to get too much into it, but you'll do some legwork in the thing, and then ultimately the building will come down, and then like I'm just trying to picture what even a groundbreaking means, right? So we're gonna be out there with the shovels or whatever, whoever's invited. But that won't mean that like the building's coming down that day. I always
Right.
get confused with this sort of symbolic stuff versus like, because
Yeah.
the reason why I'm asking ultimately too is like, I have already asked Adam, and I know he asked the team, and this isn't like a major thing, right? Whatever, I mean, we just want to see this work start is really what my main concern is. But I do want to start to get my head around what the sequencing looks like. But furthermore, just as a fun thing, I have asked if the contractor, if the demolition team ever would consider working on a Saturday where we could like have a demolition watch party from the Winter Hill Brewery from their deck, because this moment is more momentous, momentous moment for the people in the area. And so if you could take that back and see, but ultimately, like, it's good to start getting a picture of what to expect. So that's great news about September. I don't want to take any more time, but thanks for answering the questions. I'm sure other people might have some, but that's all for me. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Councilor Klingon. I'll just add that Adam Dash did share that with us, and we are thinking about it. So he did his job and
Please.
conveyed the message. I think it would be great. I'll be there with my kids.
It'd be a really great way to kick off the project. And like I said, with a lot of fanfare, I know those guys up there have been waiting a long time, and I'm sure we'll have we can have a big to-do in the parking lot / their side deck. Be great. Thanks.
Agreed.
Yeah, we can talk more as staff about that also, because generally the groundbreaking is like the item that we're focused on, but we could think about if demolition, like I think we can shift to whatever feels the most significant. Cool. All right, Counselor Wilson.
Yeah, clearly Counselor Klingon just wants to be the person who pushes down whatever the thing from the cartoons that explodes the TNT.
Yes.
Clearly. Two questions. Well, a two-part first question, then a second one. We'd heard concerns before about the project penciling out. There's my understanding that was part of the holdup, though the update we just got indicates there's been permitting work, so maybe that's not the case. Is there still a shortfall that you all are looking to get figured out? And the second part is, what about these steel tariffs?
Yeah, so part one is we are still very close between, straddling the line of penciling and not penciling. I'll say that when we went out to, capital markets to try to get investors on board, that it was the response was lukewarm, right? We didn't have a bunch of people that were saying, sign me up, these returns look great. So we're trying to get creative with how we approach the structuring of the capital stack to make sure we can get there. But I mean, we still do need help, to be perfectly honest, but we are continuing to spend a lot of money on our design work. We submitted the building permit packages. I mean, there's still a lot of expensive stuff happening right now that we're confident enough to know that there is a path. We just have to find the right one, right? So we're very close, but I can't say with 100% certainty that we're there yet.
In terms of the steel tariffs, how big of a specter is that looming over this?
Yeah, so actually for our project, the tariffs or the threats of tariffs on wood have been the big, the more dynamic needle mover on this. And right now it seems to be fine, at least from what we're hearing from our contractor and the people that they have pricing their like the rough carpentry scope, because these are primarily wood frame buildings, right? There's a lot more wood on this relatively than steel. Uh, so we haven't seen a big move in our original hard cost pricing versus where we are now with, inflation, tariffs, supply chain, all this stuff, the buzzwords that you hear. It seems to have been leveled off by, or at least somewhat negated by people not having as much work, right? So there's more competition. People are more hungry. This is a nice long 2+ year project for some trades. So I think that has helped at least offset the fears that tariffs might get expensive or risky for some people.
Yeah, I know it's fairly new. I think it just got adopted into state building code in the fall, but any thought on looking into the type 4 construction, the mass timber, as an option with this?
We've run numbers on that on plenty of projects. I don't think we did it on this one. It's still a long way away from traditional construction to being able to be cost effective. I wish it was, and we seriously considered it on a project in Newton, but the spread was just too big.
Yeah, it sounds like that might be best for those projects that are kind of in the donut hole there between 8 stories and 12 stories that we hear about in terms
That's
of
exactly right.
yeah. Last question I had. Any conversation still happening with the owners of 313 Broadway to 9 Temple, that corner lot there? I know throughout we've talked about how nice it would be to acquire that and make that part of this overall project.
The development team hasn't really, as far as I know, had conversation with them anytime recently.
All right. All right. That's all I had. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Just to tack on at this point, is there no longer a need to like go after this remaining parcel? Is the priority just going ahead with the project as is?
On the private development, oh, you could take it, Ben. Sorry, I thought it was for me.
Oh, no, that's okay. Arthur, was it Scott? If you want to, we can both answer. Scott, if you want to start.
Yeah, we have fully planned for our project without that parcel, and we're moving ahead as if it will never be our parcel. But it would be a great complement to the site, whether it be through the city or through the private development team that's working on 299 Broadway.
Yeah. So I think from the city's end, that space is still within the urban renewal area, and the urban renewal area is still active. So there would be the possibility in the future of pursuing some kind of either partnership with the owner or working through the redevelopment authority for redevelopment. We've been so all hands on deck with the 299 Broadway portion of the project that we have not really been able to do big picture thinking about like, okay, once that project is in place, what is the most complementary use of this corner parcel? It's definitely a conversation we can still have here. And I know that I've obviously heard interest expressed by CAC members. So definitely open to facilitating a conversation on that once the 299 Broadway logistics are like locked. I mean, they're locked in, but just like once we're a little bit further along in the process, just because so much time currently is going towards kind of supporting from the staff end different elements of this project. Yeah.
Okay, so just to clarify, this is something that probably won't be pursued and is on the back burners, and perhaps in the future it might be something the city looks into.
I don't want to say strongly that it won't be pursued. If there was a strong interest from CAC members to like have a recommendation to the redevelopment authority, and the redevelopment authority also felt that it was like something worth pursuing, and there was a strong vision around it, I think that it could be something that we would pursue. I guess I, as an individual staffer, haven't really been able to have a strong vision around it, and I haven't necessarily heard one expressed. But I don't want to like preclude that from happening. It's just that, yeah, I guess I don't want to say confidently that it's something that would or would not happen. And if we want to have more conversations here and try to like have more of that strong vision for it, we can definitely do that. probably just like on like a at least 6 month out. At least 6 month out time frame. Okay. I see Renee's hand.
With the delay in the groundbreaking to September and now the fall, one concern I want to bring up about the site is that the fencing, first of all, the site's getting very weedy. Secondly, the site on Sewell Street, the larger lot, is not fenced correctly because there's a gap, and the kids who are living down the street are squeezing in there and playing in that lot. So there is a safety issue there with the kids getting in there. Also, the site has been graffitied. There's a lot of really bad graffiti on the old Walgreens drugstore building, both Temple Street and facing the side that faces the lot. And so my concern is that I know we're going to be breaking it up and tearing down and all this, but in the interim, could it not look like, a deserted lot?
Yeah, I think that's those are all fair comments. So we've been keeping our eye on it, right? We had just a property manager that was going out there a couple times a week. We now have a security service that goes out there 2 to 3 times every night, and I think throughout the day on Saturdays and Sundays too now, which there's at least no more people that are there overnight because that was starting to happen. We cleaned up one round of graffiti. It sounds like it's getting worse, so maybe we have to send some people out there to go take care of that. And
Yeah, the fencing overlaps where the old gates to come in are.
Mhm.
There's a piece that they added, but there's a gap there that is narrow, and the kids are squeezing in through there. There's some abandoned bikes now on the grounds.
All right, we'll send somebody out there. It's a liability for us, right? We don't want anyone in there, and we'll make it as secure as we can.
Yeah, and then the city has to prune the pear trees that are there. And then the one tree that's there, the larger one, I believe, is in the process of being set up to be torn down because it's rooted in through the base of the lot.
That's right. Yeah, that one is we have approval from the tree warden to get rid of that.
Right. Which one is the other one that was mentioned in the announcement? Because there's other trees that are around there.
So there's one on Broadway, which it's close to the bus where the bus shelter is.
Yeah, okay, that large one, yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't leave enough room on the sidewalk, and quite honestly, it would get pretty damaged during construction because it's within, feet of where our new foundation would be. And
Right.
the one on Sewell, we could easily build around it, but it's destroying the sidewalk and curb line and even into the road right now. I'm sure you've seen it. So the thought is we'll give you, I think there are 75 new trees on site, and those two old ones that have become trip hazards and ADA, non-compliance issues will go away.
Yeah, there's also one on the lower lot that's closer to the 6-family condominium. As you're coming down Sewell Street, it's the next one right there. There's trees there. And then there's trees also tucked in behind the lot between the old building for Walgreens and the other house that's there, the gray one. So, and then of course there's the weed trees that are at the edge of the lot that are growing through the wall from the upper lot. So
And are those other
all-
ones an issue? Are they issues like presenting
Excuse me?
problem? Are those other ones presenting problems too? Because we aren't planning on removing any other trees other than those two that we mentioned.
I would take a look at the lot as a whole, because some of those trees were not planted. They were they ended up growing there. over the years, since that lot hasn't been used in over 30 years. The pavements and the blacktop have cracked and some things have taken root.
Oh, I follow you now. All right, so those are the trees within our site owned by our team, not city street trees.
Right,
I know the ones, exactly the ones you're talking about. Yeah, those ones are going to be, demoed as part of construction. They're just, they don't fit within the new plan with how how we're grading the site and creating the connection from Sewell to Broadway. That whole retaining wall will go away and you'll be able to walk right through from front to back.
right.
Nick, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I guess, piggyback on Arthur's question a little bit. So, it seems like obviously the main focus being around 299, totally understand that. It seems like this, um, the parcel on the corner that's currently houses the liquor store amongst a couple other businesses. It seems like that'll never be part of the residential piece of this project for sure, as we're kind of moving ahead without it. I guess my only question is there still space for that parcel to become part of this development in some other capacity? Or will the development team never be interested in sort of pulling that in? And would it always have to be redeveloped as a separate project or in a separate capacity? Um, or is there room for like it to be redeveloped into sort of newer retail space as part of this project down the line, like, after we break ground and everything?
Yeah, I guess from my understanding, the project is structured in such a way that it doesn't include that corner parcel, so we haven't really, I guess, Scott, we haven't talked about that kind of flexibility where like if we would be interested in the future phases of the urban renewal plan, like going for that corner parcel. I think regardless, when we think of the project as like the urban renewal plan, like there definitely would be an interest if that site is redeveloped as part of the plan to do so in line with like the goals that were laid out in the plan, and then also in a way that is congruent with the larger 299 Broadway development. But from my understanding, there would not be an interest in kind of folding it in directly to their project. Scott, can you confirm that?
Yeah, I think that's right, Ben. I would add that it is, it's an entry to our site, right? It's really visible, and I think that we would have an interest in doing something that would complement what we have there. Like we use the structure of the urban renewal plan to come up with our design, and it didn't include that because we couldn't get it. But I think that having something there that complements what we are now doing, it would be great. It's a perfect location for all of the improvements that we're making to that entire block.
Scott, maybe when you initially had explored using that parcel, did your team have an idea of in what capacity it could complement the project? Like, was there any ideas thrown out, or did it just not make it that far because it wasn't an option previously to pull it in as part of this project?
Yeah, I think way back when there were different building layouts, right? When we thought we might have a chance at incorporating that into the project, the buildings they were situated differently, different shapes and different orientation on the site. Once we veered away from that and put the buildings in close to where their current footprints are now and oriented the site with that central connection and the building on the left and the building on the right, I don't think we ever really looked back into it since then, knowing that it likely wasn't going to be part of, at least the immediate plans.
Got it. That makes sense. But just to your answer previously, like if it became available down the line, there would be interest. It sounds like at least from your side of developing it just under a completely separate project, but something that's complementary to the 299 Broadway project.
I would think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Arthur, did you want to add it all to that?
Yeah, Nick kind of covered my question. I really just wanted to. I know it's something down the line, but I think if we're already moving forward with this project and this is still something that's pending, it might be useful for us to at least start thinking about like what might be a complementary development over there. So I was just wondering if the developers could provide any insight into what be useful there.
I'd be happy to look into it, Ben, at least run it by UTIL and our design Future Green. I think the landscape architect might have some creative thoughts there too. It wouldn't be like a dense development site, but I'd like to run it by the design consultants and at least see what the future might have there.
Yeah, that'd be great. Nick, you still have your hand up. Was it to add to that?
No,
Cool.
sorry. Yeah, I can take that down.
No worries. Cool. Yeah, I know in general, obviously an interest in having a site that feels super, like that integrates across that corner site with the larger 29 Broadway project, given how proximate they are. So heard on that. I think I've been upfront on like my capacity issues, but can also, yeah, start to do some thinking about that. Also start to just kind of like talk more with other staff that have more of the history of this project, since I came onto this probably a little over a year and a half ago, but I know some of those conversations about whether or not it was ideal to include that corner parcel in this larger project were had prior to that time. And I am actually curious, counselors, if you were a part of any of those earlier conversations, remember any of that context. I can also spend some time before our next meeting talking to my director and the executive director of the Office of Strategic Planning and Community Development, about any of that history.
I can just say that, the conversations have been mixed. But I mean, I think if a new conversation is desired, then I think that should happen. As far as historically, I think, we have a really big turnover rate in Somerville, so it's hard to really get a gauge of, what like a current temperature check. If people's sort of desires are, changing, they're starting to see the value of including that corner in some way. I mean, that's a conversation we should have. Um, you know, I I have all along, like I was always hoping that we never had to do an urban renewal. But not worried about if we did, because we got the desired outcome by doing the urban renewal. Mr. Cohen ended up selling to this great development team. And so, now we're in a position where we do have one, and we do have this parcel, the two parcels, I should say, on the table. And, we, as a group and as a community, have a decision to make. And I think if, so just the earliest part, I should say, actually, just for anybody that missed the whole thing, is, originally when the city was sort of, economic development team was rolling out the possibility of an urban renewal, they had a list of more parcels than just those three. It included like the Mama Lisa's building, and some other stuff. The community felt very strongly about focusing on, the corner and like the Star Market. So those three parcels became the plan after a, pretty robust community process, which is now, like I said, that's been a while. That's why I would say we'd have to revisit it. The data might be outdated, but just with that historical piece, that was decided upon by the community as this would be the urban renewal catchment area, which would include those three parcels. So that's all I can really add, historically. But as I say, as the ward counselor, things change. And so if people want to have that discussion again and look at the opportunity and, if, I mean, I'll speak frank, obviously to me, the liquor store itself is somewhat, I don't want to say an eyesore, but it is a missed opportunity, I think, to some degree. That's just my personal feeling. But again, I'm not looking to, unilaterally make any decisions here. So if people want to have that conversation, I'm open to it for sure.
And can I just add, I talked to some of the owners. I think one of the challenges was different there. That corner parcel is actually a few different properties with different owners. And I think there were some different feelings about selling. Some seemed one in particular seemed very open to selling, and another did not. So who knows? Maybe things change. It might be worth a check in at this point. Who knows? But yeah, I just wanted to share that, as well as this awesome AI rendering of Counselor Klingon gleefully hitting the TNT machine with the star market behind there.
That's amazing. Yeah, I have a
Amazing
lot
and
of
little
sort of,
scared.
I mean, I have a lot of knowledge, like inside, I have a lot of information on the different businesses and the different parcels and conversations that have happened between the city's economic development team and those different businesses. Again, that may be outdated information, but, it was with deep consideration when we even, brought this to the table as to what that would mean for those businesses for sure. It wasn't anything anybody went into thoughtlessly or, there's plans of like, moving people and funds and stuff like that. So just in case if anybody is thinking about it, it's not like they just get a notice that says you're out of here. There is a process to it. So just want to add that.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Ben, if there's any way we can help with outreach to these property owners and people in that parcel, or with any other portion of the process that we're able to, I think we would all be happy to assist in any way we can.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think in the ideating part of it, I would definitely want to talk more about what that can look like, especially in the shorter term. I think for outreach to the parcels, I mean, kind of to the point that Councilor Klingon just made, where like any consideration of, the use of urban renewal, et cetera, for the taking of a parcel or just for encouraging the redevelopment of a parcel, obviously trying to be very sensitive about it. And so partially when I talk about from a capacity standpoint, like it's also just making sure I and other city staff have enough time to like really think through those considerations and be considerate going into those conversations. But I definitely hear that and appreciate it. And so if there are points of outreach where it would be helpful to have CAC members doing that outreach, I'll definitely let you know.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's like a stop and go, right? It's like, staff now, basically what I feel like you're saying, Ben, is like, okay, let's slow down. Let's not get crazy here, because all of a sudden you guys now, people are talking about maybe wanting something here, and it's like staff is at like capacity. So then, you don't want to be the one that's slowing things down. So yeah, it's this definite sort of push and pull of resources versus, desires versus all that stuff. So yeah, I think if we, if people want to do their, talk to people in the community, I think that's a good start. Like we just got to move slow. But yeah, and I can, if anybody's interested, I mean, like I said, there were discussions with all of those different entities. I can tell you one of the challenges for the Brazilian Times is that their rent is so low where they are that it's really difficult for them to think about relocating, even though they don't, they have probably more space than they need. They just work off computers. They don't print the paper there anymore. That happens in Brazil. So there are some challenges, and that's what Ben's talking about, where they would have to really get their ground game going as an economic development team. And it's like, that's a lot of work. So we just got to proceed at a pace that, we can all handle.
Yeah, thank you for adding that context, Councilor Klingon. Are there any other questions, either about the overall project or any specific questions for Scott? Okay, not seeing any hands. Well, thank you, Scott, for joining us and giving the update. Just to reiterate, we're not ending the meeting now, and I know you've said kind of meeting at least every 3 months, but if there are any other substantive updates, we'll definitely have Scott and team back during the summer to provide those updates. Cool.
All right. Thanks for having me, everyone. And we're always available, like Ben said. So if anything ever comes up, I can share my info or Ben can, but feel free to reach out. It's good seeing you all.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks.
All right, I'm going to shift to our next item, which is, I feel like I've been off on the numbering of this, which is just neighborhood updates from CAC members. So again, obviously our conversations focus mostly on the implementation of the Winter Harbor Renewal Plan, but if there are any other kind of updates or thoughts from everyone while we're all together here and while we have counselors on, love to hear it. Or any events that are coming up that you want to let us know about. I saw Raymond unmute and I see Arthur's hand. Raymond, do you want to go ahead and then we can go to Arthur?
Yeah, sure. I was just gonna say, I mean, the only feedback I've been getting is, and so Temple Street's been closed for a couple of days doing construction there. Just community concern with once, the groundbreaking does happen and there's gonna be activity there. Those types of projects gonna be, logistically staggered so that they're not happening at the same time. And the other issue is, that's always coming up is the parking. That the parking in that area, people are really concerned about.
I can I can speak a little bit to timeline just because, the city has its timeline for its infrastructure projects. What you're seeing right now is the result of that, meaning that the city has said to National Grid, I think it is. No, I'm sorry. The one you see on Broadway is the water mains. They're replacing the water mains from Medford Street, Cedar Street, to Temple. So they're replacing upgrading the water mains. You will also see work from National Grid throughout our neighborhoods in anticipation of the MROS project, if all the funding comes in and if that happens. That won't be until I forget the exact thing, but that's a major pipe that will go from Gilman Square to like Medford Street to the Mystic River. But so I guess my point is that there is coordination. May not feel like it because we're a city that is trying to catch up on decades old infrastructure issues. So certainly I feel your pain. I get it. Every road seems like there's construction happening. But this is necessary work this is what they tell me, necessary work the city needs to get done in order to do the necessary upgrades to basically help people's basements over on Fellsway West from flooding. This project is really important for helping us manage our stormwater and wastewater, or stormwater.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess, and just to reaffirm, so the same engineering team for any like traffic closures, the same engineering team is going to be approving those closures. So they do look at coordination across projects. And so if like there's streetscape work that is being done simultaneous to 299 Broadway needing to like close a portion of something, they would note that and plan for that in their response.
That's good to know. I'll pass that on. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean that it won't happen at the same time. It just
Sure,
because
yeah,
that's what I mean.
it's
That's what I mean about it. We're gonna feel a little bit of pain when this project's being built for sure. So, but the reward is when it's done. So, I believe me, this is gonna be a headache for me for the next few years, and I completely understand why. And so yeah, hopefully we can ease some of those concerns during the actual permitting process where they have a construction plan and mitigation plan, traffic plan, and all that stuff.
Arthur.
Yeah, the Summerstat happiness survey extended its deadline to June 30th because they've been struggling to get respondents. So if you want to answer how you feel about living in Somerville, please fill out the survey and tell your neighbors to do the same.
Thank you for saying that because I got the envelope and I have not responded. So it's a good reminder for me as well. Well, any other questions or comments? Renee, I saw your hand.
There's a pothole opening up at Broadway in front of the park. As you're making the left turn, we're after the merge. The roadway is crumbling.
Do you mean in front of Foss Park?
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you for noting that. Do you ever, I mean, I know this is kind of one way of feedback, but do you ever use the 3-on-1 for kind of reporting it to DPW? Cool. Just wanted to.
yeah. It
Thank
just
you for
as
noting
happens that the two counselors are here, so I figured I'd mention it.
Understood.
We use 3-on-1 as well. It's a big shout out to 3-on-1. They do a constituent services does amazing work, and I could show you on my phone. I put in 3-on-1 requests as well.
I, as a city staffer, would also use 3-on-1 even for my internal processing. So that's why I bring it up. But still good to appreciate you looking out for it.
Yeah, I was gonna put in I haven't gotten to it. The weeds are growing really famously over in front of the two pear trees. They're gotten up about 3-4 feet high now at the root of the tree every year. So I was gonna put in a request actually to have somebody come out and prune them down, but it needs also to have mulching there to help cut the growth. This is in front of the big lot.
Is that along Sewell Street or it's
Yeah, it's on Sewell Street. Yeah, it's just past the big tree that they want to take down. But there's 2 other trees right there that are healthy.
Thank you for making note of it. Do I see any other hands or any other comments? Okay. And then we also have a public comment period that is built in. We have one member of the public with us this evening. If they would like to make a comment, I'll just give a few seconds for them to raise their hand, but no pressure. And they do have their hand raised.
Hi there, Mary Mangan here. I'm curious if everything did go on schedule from the, shovels in the ground, when is the like move-in date target? Like when would people actually be, moving in?
That's a great question, and I apologize also if I didn't like make clear that it's fine. That please also feel welcome, Mary, as a member of the public, to ask that question when Scott is here. He'll definitely have a better answer. I would assume, based on the overall timing, that they would be looking to have people move in June of 2027, but I can't commit to that. That's just like my rudimentary understanding from the outside. It might be slightly after that. It could be a month or 2 before.
Yeah, sure. I figure, it's a moving target completely, but I just thought if there was if everything went really well, I was wondering when that day was. Thanks.
Yeah, I think if everything went perfectly, my expectation would be like April, May 2027. I'm gonna say May 2027.
Well, I'm curious, Ben, too, if again, I think the question of whether or not this is one project tied to each other at the hip in the sense that would it be one occupancy permit for both Beacon's property and Mark's? Or because if an
No.
occupancy permit was given to Beacon, then, they could potentially be moving in. So, it just really, part of it also depends on, if there isn't a one single occupancy permit, then part of it probably depends on, a lot of different factors around labor and stuff. But yeah, that's probably is there a predict on the website, Mary? Is there a projected timeline for moving in from their point of view?
I didn't look. That was the first time I thought of it, actually. So
For the
Yeah,
public, they've trained us to expect 18 to 24 months as a general timeline. 18 if it goes swimmingly, 24 if it takes a little more time. But that's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah, so I think that those 18 months bring us to about May 2027 in the ideal stream. But if things get pushed back a bit, then be later in the summer. And then to Councilor Klingen's question, or comment, there will be two separate certificates of occupancy for the two buildings. So, feasibly, if one building was done, they could receive a CO and then people could move into that building. Obviously there would still be construction happening outside of it. And I think even when both buildings are done, the Sewell Park lot is going to be construction laid down for the two buildings as they're constructed. So I can imagine that COs are issued for the buildings while Sewell Park is still being completely finalized. Like there would be some work on it done, but that might be how the timing ends up working out. Cool. Right, not seeing any other questions. So glad we had this time actually to check in on a lot of these items. That was a super helpful conversation. I anticipate that we'll be meeting sooner than 3 months out, because 3 months would bring us at this point to September. I anticipate we might want to have something a little bit sooner. I also acknowledge that it's July, August, so the city council meets less frequently in the summer, and other boards and commissions often will take time off. So I'll try to keep things pretty infrequent, and I'll try to also, if we do end up scheduling a meeting, offer a lot of different times to make sure that we can find something where a majority of people can come, because people are often on vacation. But yeah, and then if it doesn't end up working out to actually meet, I can always try to send a written update to communicate that way. With that, I think we can move towards adjournment, but thank you everyone for the time this evening. If you are having any questions in the meantime, please feel welcome to reach out to me directly. I'm always happy to either answer through email or hop on a call. All right. Good night, y'all.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Thank you.